Welcome, everyone. As I just presented, my name is Roger Chung, and we're going to be dealing with cyber overload. What is overload? To give too much of something to someone, to supply with an excess amount of something. Usually, if you're talking about the internet, it's normally information. That is too much of a load, could cause confusion. It can cause misunderstanding. We learn at a certain rate and we can understand at a certain rate. If you get bombarded, you will only pick up a small amount of what you're getting bombarded with. So what are we being overloaded with? How are we being overloaded? Is it through the internet? Is it through reading? Is it through our senses? Because we generally assimilate information based upon our 5 senses. When are we getting overloaded? Is it when we're at work, when we're at our computer, in front of watching videos? Why are we getting the overload? So overload actually prevents you from being able to accomplish things. So you need to know why and when and how, and where does the overload occur? Usually, when we talk about cyber overload, we're talking about the internet or on some type of electronic device. We're overloaded with what type of information? Is the information real? Is the information fake? Is it a combination of some truth and some false or misunderstood or misperceptions? All right, so all of these are questions that we ask when we talk about overload. And how do you detect that something is real information you're getting? Is it large amounts of incorrect or partially correct information that's causing the overload, or from the computer or electronic device? Is it pictures, videos, some type of entertainment? Right, so videos, pictures, are these things helping you to grow? Are they about people? Are they about events? Would it help you generate new ideas so that can possibly improve your role or your contribution towards the world, your community, your family, your inner circle? Are we consumers of this overloaded information, or are we creating content that can be added to this overload? Right? So are we consuming? That means basically we're not earning anything from it, or are we creating content and earning from this overload? So with overload, in order for overload or cyber overload to occur, it prevents you from being able to function properly within whatever environment, work environment, home environment, school environment. That is how you know that something is interfering with your performance of your daily duties or the things that you see are important, responsibilities and so on. That's you need to watch for. Cyber overload will actually prevent you from achieving many goals in terms of family and friends and at work, for example. So this calls into question your wellness, the state of being healthy, going after whatever your goals are, free of illness. Wellness is a process of change and growth, and that could be a whole different discussion. The thing is, whatever those goals are, when you can't accomplish those goals, then that could be considered interfering with your well-being. Cyber, generally, what is cyber? Computers, networks, and so on. Generally, we speak about when we talk about cyber overload, we're talking about internet. Exposure to or provision of too much information or data so that we cannot process, or it's not presented in a way that will allow us to process. Now, there are different learning styles and different ways we prefer to get information. And of course, all of this will determine if we're being overloaded or not. Information overload is not actually a new thing. Cyber overload is new because that's electronic, but information overload happened with the first libraries that were only really rich and powerful people, politicians and leaders had access to. And they were talking about information overload back then. As you can see here, this term was actually coined by a professor of political science. right? When they were talking about information overload, they were talking about books, and then it went to television and cable TV and news and different shows. So this overload concept has been around for quite a while. So when you get to information overload, it's usually when you cannot process the amount of information which I mentioned earlier. So your ability to make proper decisions and understand what you're actually reading, whether it's fake, it's not fake, it's truthful, it's partially, you cannot check, or you don't bother to check anymore, and you accept it as true. Managing information in your daily life, of course, is quite a problem for most people, because some people will walk around everywhere with their phones, not watching at where they're going, texting in a car while driving. There are many ways where information overload is showing its head and can cause injury, damage, and of course, loss of livelihood, and of course, wellness. That is when it becomes a problem. It might be anything from social media, email, web pages, mobile apps. Basically, it's all about balance. And if too much time is spent on any one thing, then the other areas suffer, and hence your well-being may suffer. Work life might suffer, family, or school life in this case. So what has been causing this overload? It's information on the internet, hence the cyber overload. Huge volumes of information are constantly being generated. More and more information is being generated, and it's really impossible for you to keep up with all of it. If you're trying to keep up with the ideas, probably it's a lot simpler. When you're trying to keep up with people like stars, celebrities, and so on, or the latest TikTok or social media user, that can actually take up quite a bit of time. And yes, there's entertainment in it. There are debates as to how much time should actually be spent online. Of course, with our remote work type activities, balance has to be found. And the balance is really to prevent us from not being able to achieve this wellness. And of course, get our work done and our schoolwork done. So there are large amounts of information, historical information. How do we process all this information? The information isn't properly structured, so therefore it makes it harder to interpret and assimilate, and all of these cause or information overload. How do we avoid information overload? Well, there are a number of steps and things that we can do to prevent this information overload. Keeping things simple, that is less information, makes it simple, or summarize the information in a way. And if we're interested in more, we of course can search for that more information if you're something you're interested in. Keep it relevant. This is how we prevent others from getting information overload from what we present to them. Keep it clear and provide supporting information. Always provide your references and or data that supports what you're talking about, so that anyone reading your information will quickly be able to check your references and know if you're referencing fact or fiction or ideas, for example. Provide balanced information. So you want to provide both sides of the story. When you're actually looking at information, you also want to see these things. And that is how you generally know if the information is trying to be unbiased, and it's not only presenting one point of view. Make it clear that what is to be done with the information, and make it easy for the user to take action. All of these things prevent information overload in anything that you produce, documents you produce. Smartphones and other gadgets, of course, have a wealth of information and features. Most people do not use these devices to their maximum potential in order to achieve better things like promotion and increase in knowledge and ability to do different things and enhancing your life. For example, 50, 60 years ago, television was a threat. And it was, we feared that minds would rot 50, 60 years ago, diminishing our attention span and addicting millions to mindless drivel. Doesn't it sound familiar? Getting information off the internet, I like this one, is like taking a drink from a fire hydrant. Sounds painful. Right, so how do we avoid information overload ourselves? Feel free to ignore things that you're not that interested in, and learn to say no. I'm not interested in this particular thing. Yes, worldviews and information about the world is important, but at a certain point, it becomes information overload. Free to take action without all the facts. Yes, sometimes you have to go, especially if it's something that's low risk. If you're buying a house or a car or something that's extremely important to your life that costs a lot or that could affect your life, then you definitely want to research that particular information. Create an information queue and tackle it at on a regular basis. Filter information ruthlessly. That is, reduce so much clutters in your email, reduce so much information you're looking at in terms of YouTube. Go with a purpose. Once you attack your cyber devices with a particular purpose, it allows you to now to take control of it as opposed to it taking control of you and possibly preventing you from accomplishing what you'd like to accomplish daily and weekly, monthly, and so forth. Delegate information responsibilities. As if you're part of a team, let each part or member group team do a certain part of it so that you won't get that overload. So each person can now summarize and contribute to that group. And people, of course, it might encourage people to specialize. But a nice part about this is you can now see something that you might be interested in that you may want to go after because it might affect your future career and well-being. Learn to skim. There's something called fast reading, speed reading that you can use. Look at key points, look at the summary, look at the conclusion, and maybe read 1 or 2 sections within, and you can generally get a point of that particular article. So information overload might be a symptom of these or desire to not focus on what's important in the moment. It's a choice. That's right. So it's a choice to make before and after. What you can also do is log your days and see how much time you spend, how much time your children spend, or how much time you spend on that particular device to see if it's reaping any reward or it's beneficial in terms of, yes, entertainment, yes, you need to relax, but again, it's all about balance and understanding where you no longer achieving that balance will cause things that shouldn't happen to happen, that may affect schoolwork, for example. Information overload is a real problem. Prevents us from making decisions, or taking actions when you have too much information. There's simple tips that we can use, as we saw before, to reduce information overload. The way we design things, we can prevent it from ourselves. Following tips will never eliminate them completely, but it will allow you to balance your life and your child's life in order for them to be able to handle this information and not just dismiss it, for example, unless of course, they're not interested in it. All right, so how do you save? 7 ways to prevent information overload. Unplug, yes, stay away from the devices, not just when you're sleeping, but otherwise. Manage your information, be selective, get everyone involved to plan, and if it's in case of work or group projects, for example, or class time, to strategically how you're going to deal with this information. Keep it simple, try not to duplicate. Clear your mind. That means you actually have to be away from it. Maybe by putting thoughts on paper. Set limits. Know what's important, what's prioritized, for example, in order to find what's important. And prepare for the next day. There are a number of health hazards to any sitting activity or any activity that you do. And cyber overload can also harm your physical body. Besides your eye strain, back strain, bad posture, neck. Many people complain of these things, and it's usually due to ergonomics. That is how to sit properly, how to use the device properly, how to take breaks from the device. And yes, it can cause a number of things. Carpal tunnel syndrome is one of these things where sometimes operations have to be performed on your wrists in order to reduce the pain, whereas simple preventative measures can be used to deal with these before they happen. Things like stress, poor sleep, obesity, that is not related to health specifically or because of lack of activity, and compromised immunity. So you want to increase outdoor activity. Yes, we're in a lockdown, so it's a little difficult. So you'll increase indoor activity, reduce time spent unnecessarily on handheld devices, take 5-minute vision breaks every 30 to 40 minutes. This as you've seen this research everywhere. And I can always provide the links to these articles as well, which I have within my PowerPoint slide, which you can get from HR. Move it when not typing. Use your hands. Do not rest the arms and perform some stretches. Yes. Don't know if you remember while in school, they will tell you to get up, raise your hand, arms to the sides, arms out, and so forth. And set up the computer station to suit the child's height. Invest in an ergonomic chair and teach your child to type and play gently, for example, without using unnecessary force. Computer screen should be lower than the eye level. Main source of light should not shine straight in your face onto the screen, for example, from a window. And the keyboard should be at a height whereby forearms are roughly parallel to the floor. Elbows should rest comfortably at your sides and use an ergonomic chair to hold your natural curve of your spine. And this is your basic look that you want to have. Again, this can be provided, it's already provided to HR, and they can forward it to you so that you can properly design your work area so that you don't suffer physical damage by using your computer by just doing work and schoolwork, for example, and any type of work on a device, cyber. And also, so the things that can be caused by cyber overload. Your feet should rest on the floor. You take a footstool. The mouse should be placed as close to the keyboard as possible at the same level as described. Your keyboard and your wrist and hands to be naturally positioned. Use your whole arm, not just your wrist, when using the mouse. Make sure your child gets enough sleep at night. Teach your kids to pay attention to the surroundings. Encourage face-to-face interaction. Parents can also talk to their children about their own tech habits, share relevant articles, and introduce new activities. Time out, yes. Take a nature walk. Well, you can't go hiking right now and you can't do nature, but when the country opens, we can. How about outdoor photography? Well, again, all of these things would require you be outdoors, which we can't do right now. And don't let tech hijack the bonding time with your child and with each other. You don't want to find out, to get to a place later on in your life when tech basically stole, or earlier it was television and videos, and before that it was books, prevent you from bonding as a family. Reduce time spent on near work when reading, using a computer, watching TV, video games. Go for regular eye checks. Keep about 30 centimeters away from the book when you're reading. Read in a well-lit area. Sit upright. Books should have large print and discourage reading in bed or in moving vehicles. Computer screen, well, we mentioned this, different things about the computer screen, and time, adopt a balanced diet and healthy lifestyle, for example. When watching video games, use a larger TV screen, should sit away from the television, and the height of the TV should be below eye level. Well lit, we kind of mentioned these things. And go for regular eye checks. I just want to play a video to bring home the point of what I was talking about. See, the video isn't showing up easily here. So do this. Right. Okay, cool. The video is not showing. Ugh. Sorry about that. My nice video didn't play. I guess that's the end. I will send the video separately, video link separately about ergonomic design.